There are some strange association in mythology. You have the black raven and the black crow, which are associated with the sun from China to the northern Eurasia and the northern Pacific coast of the United States. But the sun is bright, not black like the raven. We'd like to understand that mystery. The important hint is that in many mythological traditions, the raven was once white and later became black. In here we see another motif where you have the white span marrying the black crows, and you have here another white-black opposition. Indeed, ravens are omnivores that obtain meat mostly through feeding on carrion. That makes them in many traditions of symbol of death. In many regions, the raven is associated with immortality, which is the absence of death. In North America, here in blue, the raven tries to starve people by hiding animals or warning them of human arrival so that the raven can feed on dead humans. The connection to death also makes the raven the messenger between humans and gods. Myths and folk tales often pair opposites, such as black and white, life and death, or death and immortality, a central observation already done by Lévi-Strauss long ago. Lévi-Strauss, the famous French anthropologist. In Norse mythology, Odin sent the raven out at dawn to fly over the entire world. They return at dinner time to sit on his shoulders and whisper into his ears all the news they have gathered. This makes Odin the most informed of the gods. Ravens and crows are really superb, highly intelligent birds that have captured the imagination. You have even a systematic study of ravens that has shown that they are comparable to great apes in terms of skills and social development. It's therefore not surprising that ravens are often tricksters. Let's recall that a trickster is a demiurge, a creator that sometimes acts foolishly. The raven is a trickster central to Alaskan and northern Pacific coast. Is a creator and within the very important raven cycle is credited with obtaining the sun. On the Eurasian Pacific coast, the raven steals the sun, and in China, the sun is associated with the crow. But let's recall, the crow is just a small raven. Despite considerable differences among China, Siberia, and Alaska, motifs associating the raven and the sun are found across a nearly continuous territory, illustrating that cultures are never entirely isolated. Some interesting stories find their way through space and time to reach us and prompt us to think about the relationship between people. Let's see this in more detail. In China, the crow is associated with the sun, like on this banner dated to 168 BCE from a Han period tomb. The banner depicts various scenes from early Chinese mythology, the moon, which contains a toad, and the sun, with a crow. The crow is shown with two legs. Later, it will have three legs. One of the several possible explanations for the three legs is that both the sun and the crow are connected as odd numbers to the yang. Before the Common Era in China, the raven is mentioned in the classic of Mountains and Seas, a famous book. There's a huge tree named Fuzang on which 10 crows sit. Each day the sun emerges and another son is born by the crow. The story seems to describe a 10-day cycle, and some researchers have suggested that the three legs represent the 3 10-day periods in a month, but as we've seen, there are some alternative explanations. At one time, the earth was scorched by Tenson, and the archer Yi had to kill all the crows except one. The story is famous in China and Southeast Asia. Researchers do not agree on the antiquity of the association between the crow and the sun. Some claim an origin in the Shang period or even earlier in a shamanistic or totemic context. The sun and birds appear together on artifacts as early as 7,000 years ago, as this example from the Emudu culture seems to show. In this close-up, one sees a bird. Is it a raven? Well, difficult to conclude. Let's move to northern Eurasia, where the raven steals the sun. In several stories, the raven is a villain. It swallows the sun out of vengeance. In a Koryak story, the raven swallows the sun after losing a bride to a little bird. A woman comes and tickles the raven. He laughs and regurgitates the sun. The sun is saved. Among the Chukchi, the sun is kept hidden in a walrus hide sphere at a spirit house. So the spirit daughter, Raven, liberates the sun, ending the spirit control over the celestial light. The sun ascends is followed by the spirit vengeance, causing the daughter to fall into the sea and transform into a walrus. One story, Raven created light by using his finger as a fire drill against his foot. A story reminds us that in this cold region, fire and sun are source of life. The raven is bonded to the sun, but they are also to the celestial north and probably to the night. Here we begin to understand with these several examples the many facets of the raven. On the northern Pacific coast, within the Tlingit, Haida and Xinjiang, raven travels to where a great chief keeps the light in boxes. Raven transforms into a spruce needle, a spruce needle that is swallowed by the chief's daughter, and a son is born. The son steals the stars, moon, and sun boxes one by one. When he releases the sun, the sudden light frightens people into the woods and water, where they transform into the animals whose skin they wear. Now let's summarize the general distribution of raven motifs. The white raven and the raven death motif function as complementary cultural elements, each bounded to distant psychological and environmental conditions. The association of the raven with death is rooted in the bird's biological role as a scavenger, while the black and white opposition evokes the contrast of day and night. And these associations are found in most territories associated with the raven. Connection between the raven and the sun, however, is specific to the North Pacific coast and East Asia. Thus, in a continuous region from China, Japan, Korea to Alaska and the Arctic, the association of the raven crow with the sun likely crystallized from the more widespread association of life and death. At the next level, the interaction between the sun and the raven takes different forms. While the specific origin of these regional motifs remain unclear, it's plausible that the convergence resulted from historic interaction between neighboring cultures. In summary, we've identified three layers of interdependent motifs here: the relation to death and the white-black opposition, the general solar motif symbol, and the specific regional motifs. Raven is the ideal candidate to stress test my model of mispropagation. Question is critical. The simple contact model in episodes 4 to 6 ignores this complexity. Does this layering break the model, or does it play only a secondary role in the quantitative analysis of mispropagation? Applying our general contact model to the raven case, we simulate propagation on a lattice where active cells host one of the two mutually exclusive variants, here red or blue. A probabilistic mutation factor mimics regional differentiation, allowing distinctive submotifs to emerge and cluster while sharing the same geographic constraints. Finally, by aggregating statistics from 100,000 simulations, we demonstrate that the complexity introduced by the layer structure does not alter the global distribution curve obtained in the database. The difference from the simple model is small. The distribution of the number of instances of motifs remain robust. Here we see in black the real data. Then in blue here the simple model presented in episode 4 to 6. And here the layered contact model that we've just developed here, which is an extension of the simple model, and we see very little difference. Might seem surprising, but the math is straightforward. If you split a widespread motif into two smaller competing submotifs, distribution changes little. You have simply added two motifs to the crowded part of the graph where many other small motifs already exist, and the signal is essentially unchanged. It's like adding a small cup of water to a big jar. The level does not change much. Critics might point to a second challenge: the missing data. Many motifs are secret, private to a specific group, or highly specific to local conditions. Bereskin database cannot capture what is hidden. However, our model shows that its absence of data is statistically irrelevant because these secret motifs are bound to single isolated tradition. They never propagate enough to alter the global distribution in the range of interest. The raven demonstrates that while local culture constantly layer new details onto old stories, the underlying mechanism of transmission, neighbor to neighbor, that transmit motifs over millennia, leaves a fingerprint that cannot be erased.